The grandfather paradox. The grandfather paradox deals with the question of what happens if you go back in time and kill your own grandfather. Since it is a paradox, thereby having no logical answer, it is up for debate. In the case where you travel back in time and actually kill your grandfather, you will also have ended your own existence. No grandfather, no you. So one conclusion will be that you will also be wiped out from existence. As far as traveling back in time, you are most likely to end up in a parallel universe. That means that even though you end grandfather's life in that universe, when you travel back to where you started, grandfather will still be alive in your present universe. The dilemma presents itself as to how likely is it that altering the past in this universe or a parallel one will have an effect on your reality in the present moment. By, for example, killing your grandpa in many parallel universes, it is likely that you have altered the past permanently from ever having an effect on the present. And if so, how do you know if you don't yourself exist anymore as a consequence? To tackle this problem, we must go to the fact that reality is what you observe. Until you observe something, it is not a reality for you. In the event where you create your future from the many observations made by you previously, reality becomes a game of probability. The more aware and observant you are about what you have already observed, there is the possibility that you can foretell your own future with higher accuracy by knowing the many probable paths available. For example, let's say you throw a bowling ball. By having observed with high focus all your previous throws, you are more likely to be able to know what your next throw might look like. In the case where you go back to kill your grandfather, the observation itself is creating that reality more firmly. The question still remains though, will it wipe out you as well? My conclusion is that it in actuality will not wipe out your existence, but merely alter its origin and thereby you. If grandfather was not there to create your mother, and your mother was not there to bring forth you, then someone else must have taken that place in the history of existence. Your grandfather was killed before creating your mother, but another grandfather was not. Therefore, this is a matter of variation in the scheme of creation, time travel, and altering the past, and not a paradox about if you would exist at all. For that to take place, you will also have to nullify every variation of your possible grandfather. The soul, before it chooses a womb, will look for what fits its karma most appropriately so it can work out a destined path. When choosing your birth, you will therefore choose another grandfather, since that variant of your grandfather is not any longer available, and in the process change your own appearance. In other words, you will still exist even though you kill your grandfather, but the present will have changed into you looking different and also having a different grandfather. In the most unlikely case that you start to go back in time to kill every variant of your grandfather brings us back to a paradox. In that case, my guess is as good as yours. I still would lean towards creation winning out over annihilation. But that could be because I myself have an optimistic mindset and therefore believe that I would prefer life over death at some point and start realizing that killing in and of itself is not conducive to the basics of how life works. That is that we always end up going for what feels better, which could be annihilation in the short run, but creation in the long run. Therefore, although it is a paradox, I believe that the spark within mankind that has brought us this far will overrun it in the end, since that is what our present reality is a reflection of, which in return makes it a higher probability case. As intelligence evolves, mankind seems to have been able to curtail the killing with both laws and common sense. From a purely calculative standpoint, it still remains a paradox, but from a spiritual standpoint and view from our current position in the universal scheme, you still will exist in some form at least.